Welcome to Your Pharmacy Career podcast, proudly brought to you by Ravens Recruitment, Australia's leading specialist pharmacy recruitment agency. The podcast series has been created to shine a light on the diverse and inspiring careers of Australia's pharmacists. Each episode will focus on the varied career opportunities within the pharmacy industry by exploring the career paths taken by leaders in the fields of community pharmacy, hospital, industry, government and professional organisations. Careers never follow a defined path. Everyone's story is different and unique in their own way. The podcast series will help you discover the world of opportunities that exist and reveal pathways to achieve your dreams and aspirations. Whether you are a pharmacy student, early career pharmacist, or simply looking for a change at any stage of your career, the podcast series is designed to help you navigate ways into a career and a life that you love. Your host of the podcast series is Ali Sue. Ali, herself a pharmacist, is now the founder of Global Pharmacy Entrepreneurs and a passionate advocate for pharmacists to grow, innovate, excel, and make a lasting impact in the world. It's now over to our host, Ali Sue.
Welcome to Your Pharmacy Career Podcast. This is Ali Sue. Today I'm speaking with a locum pharmacist, Miruna Vivekanandarajah. Miruna completed a Bachelor of Pharmacy degree with a major in International Pharmacy at the University of Sydney. She started her pharmacy career in the pharmaceutical industry, regulatory affairs, and community pharmacies. She is currently focusing on expanding her clinical, professional, and personal skills through working as a locum in different pharmacies across rural and regional areas. In this episode, Miruna shares with us many practical tips and useful advice to help fellow pharmacists who are interested in starting or excelling on their locum journey. As a bonus in this episode, I have invited the General Manager of Ravens Recruitment, Heidi Dariz. Heidi will share with us her insights from the 2020 Pharmacy Salary and Market Report, the Emergency Locum Pharmacy Service, and she is also bringing exciting news about a new initiative at Ravens Recruitment. Without further ado, let's hear from Miruna and Heidi. Welcome, Miruna, to Your Pharmacy Career Podcast. I'm very excited to get to know your pharmacy career. Now we know you're a locum pharmacist. Where did you do your pharmacy school? And since when did you start your locum journey?
So thank you, Ali, for having me here. I studied a Bachelor of Pharmacy, major in International Pharmacy at the University of Sydney. I did my internship in the pharmaceutical industry as well as in community pharmacy. So I actually did it in Capital Care Consulting, but now known as Brandwood CKC. And that's the pharmaceutical industry component that I did it in. The remaining hours I was in Blaxland Day Night Pharmacy up in the Blue Mountains, which was a really good experience. And that's how I started off. And I did more regional work in pharmacy afterwards, particularly in Gundagai and Harden, and then decided to do locum pharmacy, become a locum pharmacist and just travel all around Australia.
What was it like to be a locum pharmacist?
So I think working in Gundagai and Harden, which is actually 4 hours in Sydney, that's where I actually did my, straight after internship, worked as a registered pharmacist. Leaving home for that role prepared me for what I'm doing right now as a locum pharmacist, because I did my 8 months in regional area, working as a pharmacist in charge over there and staying away from family. And I tackled that. It was very difficult, especially during COVID and things like that. It prepared me for my current role as a locum pharmacist. And yeah, like whilst I miss my family and being away from home and the different environment in working in Sydney, locum allows me to actually choose my schedule according to when I want to work and where I want to work. So I really like the flexibility. So yeah.
How frequent do you move from pharmacies to pharmacy?
Very frequent. So I actually started locuming officially in December 2021. Initially, when I started off in my role, I actually went straight into Tari. Tari was my actual first locum pharmacy role from Sydney, and I was very nervous and very frightened about that role, just because it was my first experience as a locum pharmacist. I was worried about how the management is, the owner, the team, and luckily, because of my previous experience in regional pharmacy as well, I committed just for 1 week role. And even though the owner actually wanted me to stay there for a month, I told him, look, it's my first ever locum role and I need to try the place first. If I don't like it and if I'm not happy there, then it's going to be difficult on both ends. So can I just try for 1 week? And then if I like the place, I'm happy to do a continuous 3 weeks. But in between, I have to travel back to Sydney. So after 2 weeks, and then I'll come back. But yes, I need to trial it before I commit to it. And so that was a really good move that I made for myself and also for the pharmacy. And the boss was very understanding of it and is like, yep, I totally understand. It was actually November, December period as well. And so then I actually went there. Within 2 days of working there, I really liked it. I liked the way that they managed it. It was appropriate. It was everything was done, legally and ethically, and things were flowing very well as well. So it was really organized and well managed. So yeah, within the second day, I said, you know what, I can stay for a month, and and I had a really good time. So I was working in Wingham initially for about a week, and then 3 weeks afterwards, he put me in Tari. So the owner actually had 3 stores, and I managed to move around within the 3 stores too, which was really good. And that team was very interesting because it was filled with completely young, from about maybe 14-year-olds all the way to 23-year-olds running the entire pharmacy with a really good young management team. And it really shocked me on how they did it because the management was so good. Yeah, pretty much everyone was doing everything, which really helped.
I guess it's unpredictable as a locum pharmacist going into different pharmacies. Your tip of trialing it first before you start shift is a good idea.
Exactly.
Pharmacists who have never done locum shifts before and they want to start to become a locum pharmacist, what are the things they need to prepare?
Yeah, so the very important thing is it's about who you go with. There's so many locum agencies out there. Do your research about who you're actually walking through, which makes a huge difference. So, for example, Ravens is very professional. So they've got a good professional team with information on, they'll tell you about the pharmacy before you go into. So how many scripts they do. Are you sole pharmacist or are you second pharmacist or are you pharmacist manager? What's the team like? How many, Webster Pack patients they do, methadone patients. So if you're familiar with that program, or Suboxone, COVID vaccinations, flu vaccinations, what are your responsibilities? Asking all these questions really makes a huge difference before you walk in. So definitely don't just take a job just because, it turned up and you want to try at that place. Ask your questions beforehand and see if you're comfortable in an environment like that. Some people are not comfortable in a high script environment. It's too stressful. Some people can manage it. Some people can handle it. It's about knowing what you want out of the role as well. Because I'm a very professional services oriented pharmacist. I love my counseling and I love being around patients. So in certain places where it's a high script environment, sometimes I'm pulled away from my counseling, which affects me. And because I'm in pharmacy for that reason, I want to help patients and I want to talk to them. I look at the balance and see what my limits are. Can I work in a 500 to 600 scripts a day pharmacy? Not really, because I know it will be stressful, yes, but I'll be pulled away from my patients and it's not safe for myself practicing in such a high script environment because there's a point where you'll burn out. So things like that, testing your limits, you need to know that as well. And know before you walk into the pharmacy. And also there's also tips where the team, so is there someone with you when you're opening? Is there someone when you're closing? And that is important because that's about safety of yourself and your team. Things like that. So asking the questions. And one of the major points I would say to every single locum pharmacist out there is ask this question. It can be very uncomfortable, but it is very important at the same time for your own sake. And that is to check if any of the pharmacists, intern pharmacist, student, or even the owners have any restrictions on their license. That makes a huge difference. Restrictions on their license is basically with APRA, certain pharmacists out there might not be, even if they're the owner, might not be able to walk into the store themselves and practice for certain reasons. I don't know what it is. Or that they have restrictions on not being able to dispense S40s or S8s. I have worked in environments like that, and it's not safe. I haven't had a good experience, so I stay away from places like that. So yeah, it's about having, knowing your comfort zone as well. One of the locum roles, having said all of that, where I worked where the owner actually had restrictions, he was completely fine. He was really nice. And the way of running the pharmacy was really good. So I had no issues. And he told me beforehand as well, he actually does have restrictions on license, but it's under investigation. And this is the reason why it happened. I'm being all honest. I don't have any thing to hide. Like, it's not my fault. And they were honest beforehand. So I was like, you know what? I want to give it a shot. And I went into that pharmacy and I was fine. I had a really good experience. So pick and choose. And if you're being honest to them and them being honest to you, that's literally the key. And that's how things can work smoothly as well.
How did you get those information? Do you connect with the owner or the pharmacy directly, or do you ask the recruitment agency? How does the process work?
I depends. So I actually go through different recruitment agencies, just like most people do. And so with Ravens, Touchwood, I've been really good so far. So wherever they've been recommending, like, I haven't had any issues. But with certain other recruitment agencies, I directly ask the agent first, and I tell them, can you please check with them and let me know. And most of the time has been pretty good. What I do is I don't just leave it there. I also send in a confirmation email from my end to the pharmacy owner or the manager, asking them, can you confirm, is this a number of scripts, dispense dates, blah, 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 all these questions. And towards the end, I actually put in a statement saying, could you please let me know if anyone has restrictions on their license? And like highlight it. So I make sure that I directly ask the owners as well in a very polite manner. Don't be rude about it, because everyone has their own backstory and you don't know, so don't judge. But it is important for you to know, because there are people who can make yourself feel uncomfortable the way you practice when you walk in there. And there are really good people who just, support you for who you are as a pharmacist as well. Just ask.
For our students, early career pharmacists, intern pharmacists who are interested in applying or becoming a locum pharmacist, what are the preparations they need to do?
Intern pharmacists or pharmacists who are currently working, who wants to, start off their own business and work as a locum pharmacist, basically get an accountant, that you know or trust, or just find one, and ask for their legal opinion as well first. So you're going to start off a business, which means you need to get an ABN under your name. It could be in two pathways. So you can do sole trader, or you can start off as a company. So where you have an ABN, but you also end up having an ACN. So that's what becomes a company. So a PTY LTD. Just be aware of your PDL insurance. So if you're a sole trader, I'm actually with PDL insurance. So they my current insurance actually covers for an ABN, so a sole trader business, but it doesn't really cover for a company. So I need to buy something separately, a master's policy. So that's with the guild and PDL together. So that's something that I did my own research. So whenever you start off your own business, it's really important to understand and know if your pharmacy insurance will actually cover for your business. So get the advice from your accountant first, and then get the advice from your insurance and ask them, will you cover me for this? And if not, take the necessary steps to upgrade your insurance, for example. And then register yourself with, I personally would highly recommend register yourself with locum agencies that you trust. Do your research behind them first, ask around for help. I'm sure a lot of people out there will help. And just register with them and let them know you're interested to work. What are your experiences if you're new and all of that, and sign up to it, and they'll send you your emails and alerts. See if you're comfortable with those roles, and then just get started.
How do you manage working interstate? Tell us your experience.
Yes, so this is where I absolutely love it, because it definitely keeps me on my feet, and I'm constantly learning. So every state is different. So just like you said, the laws are different. So New South Wales, just them handling S3s is different to Queensland. Queensland, you dispense all of it, all of your S3s, and your S2s are also kept behind the counter, but you keep an eye out on what sale is going through. So I basically just get on the website, so Queensland Health or New South Wales Health, and read on the pharmacist regulations. Ask the pharmacist you're working with. If you don't have a pharmacist where you're not working with, so my first experience in Queensland was in Townsville, and I was a sole pharmacist. So I had to get the advice from the pharmacist manager who hired me. And I said, look, it's my first time in Queensland. I read up on it. I know your Q script is mandatory, whilst in New South Wales, Safe script isn't mandatory. So, what else should I be aware of? So they say prescriptions, for example, you don't have to keep it in the pharmacy. You can hand out the repeats in Queensland, but in New South Wales, it's opposite. You've got to keep it here. So a lot of things vary. And do your research before you go into any of your role, and ask your managing pharmacist for advice as well. So they have their wealth of knowledge and they'll guide you as well.
Many people feel like a locum pharmacist role is only temporarily, it doesn't help pharmacists to build their pharmacy career. Do you agree with that statement? What's your experience like working as a locum pharmacist?
Yes, so that's a really good question. So I've actually had this discussion with a couple of people, including my own sister. So she's currently studying medicine, and then I told her, why don't you consider being a locum doctor once you finish your studies and get your full registration? And then she said, no, I don't want to do that because a lot of people look down on locums, even in medicine. And I said, you know what, that's true, yes, and even in pharmacy they do as well. But the experience you get as a locum pharmacist is priceless. It really is, because at the end of the day, you have to have a lot of guts to actually walk into a pharmacy that you have no clue anything about, the team, the management, the place, the location as well. So you've never been into a location like that before either. And that itself gives a lot of confidence and strength. And it really does build that confidence. And you need to go walk in there and you have no idea who these people are, but you need to start working from scratch and start managing them and make sure the workflow is running well, dispensing and counseling medications to patients, handling, methadone and Suboxone, vaccinating, things like that. You just have to start. Just the normal work of daily community pharmacists, you need to do it at a completely different location. You're putting yourself under a lot of challenges, and it's about how you walk out of that challenge confidently and doing your job your 100%. I've walked into so many pharmacies where I've learned a lot from the team, as well as I've taught the team as well, which they're really appreciative of. And that really gives you a lot of experience for life. And this is not necessarily just in pharmacy, but if you choose to do any other career pathway, it's a lot of development, both professionally and personally. And that's why I think being a locum pharmacist or a locum in any profession is really important, because you really gain these experiences that is quite useful for any career.
What are the benefits to sign up with a locum agency?
So one of the main reasons why I signed up with Ravens is because they're very professional. So they fully have a contract, which is honestly the only agency group that so far that I've signed up for professionally has a contract. It goes both ways, which gave me a lot of confidence in Ravens. That's number one. Number two is Ravens actually negotiate, payment and things like that once you complete a job, and they pay me. So Ravens paying me is a lot of security for my business, because there are so many places out there who don't pay pharmacists, unfortunately, even though they do the work for you. And which is frustrating, because then you have to take the legal step and go by a lawyer. It's just unnecessary. Things like that can be avoided when you're with Ravens, because they negotiate it for you. You've done the job, you have that job security, and you get your payment. Yeah, so that's why I like going through an agent, because they take that responsibility of what happens afterwards, and not necessarily just financially, but also they're looking for feedback, which is what I like about Ravens. Is Cheryl is someone that I work with closely, and she always asks me, so how was your shift? Can you please give us feedback? And she asks feedback from the pharmacy about me as well, as a pharmacist. So it goes both ways. So it's a professional development for myself as well, because I'm getting feedback from the pharmacies via this agent, and I'm providing feedback for about the pharmacy through Ravens. So it tells me that you guys actually care a lot, and not just stick me in a role, but follow up afterwards as well, which is really important. There's always pros and cons to any role or any career that you go into. So I've talked about the pros and the cons, but being a locum pharmacist is one of the best things I did so far for my career. It really did boost that confidence and the courage, and just throwing myself into different challenges clinically as well. I must say this is really important. Clinically, I did learn a lot as well. There are moments where I'm like, oh, I wasn't familiar with this. Do you know this medication was used for that indication? And that's because I'm in different environments constantly, and I see different cases, different patients, their medications. It's completely different. Being in regional pharmacy, I learned a lot about even the highly specialized drugs, so the really expensive ones, and how to order them, how it works. So a lot of the cytotoxic drugs, which I haven't even seen in Sydney, I've seen in some regional area, which is fascinating. So yes.
Any last advice you want to leave with our early career pharmacists?
In terms of locuming, very important advice is be adaptable, be flexible, know what you're absolutely strong about. So whether it's working with S8 scripts, S4D script, NES4 scripts, like know your laws, know your legalities, your regulations, and know what you're strict about and you won't bend. And at the same time, there will be situations where you should be able to be a bit more flexible, bend things the way that you're comfortable with. But having said all of that, if you're not comfortable doing something, it is okay. You can say no. Don't let someone else pressure you to do something that you're not comfortable with. Find another solution. There's always a backup plan. Find that solution, and your patient should be your priority. You really need to think that, and your patients should always be your priority. They're the ones at the end of the day needs that help and the care, but not at your expense. So think about what's your priorities and what you're comfortable doing, and don't let anyone step on you. So know where to look and where to ask for help as well. So whether this is clinically or whether this is legally, it's really important. And look after yourself and look after your team as well. And one of the most important message I would say is every pharmacy is different, every team is different, every management is different. Don't stress yourself out thinking you're doing a favor by changing the way that they're running, because at the end of the day, it will create chaos. So walk into a pharmacy and ask them how they do things. If you absolutely don't agree with it, it's illegal or it's unethical or something, okay, say you're not comfortable and this is how you do it, and you do it your way. But other than that, if it's just, the workflow and things like that, work with them, work with the way that they work, so that things run smoothly. If you rock in there and you'll be like, no, I don't like this, and you want to change the whole thing, it will create a lot of chaos. So pick your games and so basically pick your fight, work with the team, and that makes a huge difference. And patients are always your priority.
Thank you. Now, as promised, let's hear from Heidi, the General Manager of Raven's Recruitment. Hi, Heidi. Well, thank you for joining us. Very excited to have your advice and get to know a bit of what you've done over the years. First of all, tell us more about Ravens.
Sure. Thanks, Ali. Ravens started as a pharmacist recruitment agency 35 years ago, so 1987. We've been working predominantly with community pharmacy, do a little bit of hospital as well, a little bit of industry. We do permanent positions and locum positions, probably about 50% equal mix at the moment. We have extensive experience within locum. At the moment, within our locum team, we have 3 full-time locum consultants that look after basically the whole of Australia and New Zealand as well. We also have 2 administration staff and payroll staff that back up them as well. And then, of course, there's myself that oversees the locum team. So I'm responsible for training and HR, basically making sure the whole thing runs smoothly.
Why do pharmacists need to choose Ravens as the agency to help us to find locum jobs?
That's a really great question. Look, I think, obviously if I've explained about, our history, we are the largest agency within Australia. So we've got obviously the biggest choice of roles. But I think on top of that, we've been doing it so long, we know we need to take an extensive job brief first of all. So we take a really, really clear job brief from the client, and then we pass that on to the locum. So there's no surprises. If a locum is new to locuming, they'll be feeling a little bit, nervous about what to expect. We give them all the information beforehand so they know exactly what to expect from how the pharmacies run, what services they can expect they need to provide when they get there, to where the accommodation is, who they need to see when they get to the pharmacy, where to pick up the keys, everything. We also follow that up with a clear confirmation. So everything we do is in writing. So there's no mix-ups. It's not just, some clients saying, oh yeah, can you come and locum for me? And then there's no communication. So everything's very clear. We're also a registered labour hire provider. So you won't find any other agency in Australia that runs pharmacy that is at the moment. And what that means is that we know all the laws and we're familiar with all that. So if you're a locum and you're not sure about, oh, look, is that quite right? I'm not quite sure. All my consultants are trained. So we go through regular training to keep that license. I need to attend training. My operations manager and my consultants all need to abide by certain rules and regulations. Gives the locum that reassurance that if they get into any trouble, there's any issues, we're there to support them 100%. We also have a full payroll service. So we actually pay the locums. So we can either pay you as an ABN contractor if you prefer, or you can go on our books as an employee. So there's no worry about when will I be paid. We have a fortnightly payroll with us, you guaranteed payment every fortnight. In terms of one of the benefits of choosing Ravens, technology. We're actually rolling out a new platform at the moment, which is very exciting. So basically, it'll benefit the locum in being one seamless experience. So they're going to have an app. The app will allow them to look at all our positions there. They'll also be able to advise their availability, and they can have a calendar there. So when they're available, what they're looking for, update any information. They'll also be able to book shifts themselves from there. They'll be able to speak with a consultant directly. When they are booked into a shift, when they complete that shift, all the information for the pharmacy will be straight there on the app. Okay, these are where the keys are, this is where the parking is, etc., etc. Then after the shift, they can submit their timesheet directly there. So the hours they've worked, just put it in, click a button, approved by the client, and then basically they get paid through there. So really excited about that. It should be out within the next month or so. So that's another benefit for locums.
Wow, that's good to know. So tell us a bit more about the emergency locum service.
Yep. So the emergency locum service is an initiative of the Rural Pharmacy Workforce Program. And so it aims to support community pharmacies in rural and remote areas via direct access to a pharmacist in an emergency situation. Basically, what that means is that we will place a locum pharmacist in any rural location within 24 hours for up to 7 days, and we'll fund up to $2,500 towards the travel to get that locum to the pharmacy. So we are responsible we receive the application, we assess the application, make sure everything's okay. And then actually we obviously make the locum placement. We find the locum from our database. We arrange travel to get them there and then reimburse that travel for them.
Why should pharmacists apply?
Look, I think the main reason that we have our locums, and from speaking to the ones that have done emergency locums for us, it's the job satisfaction. These are pharmacists that passed away or family member is really, really ill. In addition to that, you're helping a rural community. In a lot of cases, if we don't find that locum, or if we don't have locums to go and step up and say, look, I'd like to do that, then pharmacy may need to close. There's a whole community don't have access to their medications. And depending on how long the situation lasts, as I said, it could be 7 days. I think knowing that you're there and you're actually really making a difference, huge. Other benefits, obviously adventure. You could be sent anywhere in Australia, wide variety of locations. You would see things that you don't normally see in a city setting. And of course, the last is pay rates. So there is a financial component. So to be available at short notice and be able to, within 24 hours, right, you get a call, I'm going to this rural pharmacy. The rate is generally anywhere between 30 to 50% higher than a normal locum shift. Does depend on the area and a few other things, but generally it would be a minimum of 30% higher, but sometimes up to 50% higher. So there is that financial reward as well.
Great. So I've seen the 2022 Pharmacy
Yes.
Salary and Market Report out
Yep.
on the Ravens website.
Yep.
Tell us more about that. What's the trend?
I think there's a line in the report that actually says that the shortages within community pharmacy, I definitely hasn't seen anything like it in my 20-year history with the company, and I don't think we've had anything like it within, the company's been here for 35 years. So the shortages this year have been significant. Consequently, salaries for both permanent and locum roles have continued to increase. That's put added pressure on our locum market because obviously we're looking for locums not only to backfilling permanent roles. Travel is starting to open up again, so we're finding that some pharmacies are sort of thinking, well, I might have a bit of a break. Staff need to have a break. They're burnt out, so we need locums for that. Basically, we've seen our locum rates. Some rates have nearly doubled. So within the last 12 months, which has been huge, especially if you're available at short notice for either those emergency placements in rural areas, but even emergency placements in the city, rates have really, as I said, increased. So some of the pay rates have been, I think, long overdue, and we're starting to get to a level where I think pharmacy is going to be definitely looking more attractive.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Your Pharmacy Career podcast, proudly brought to you by Ravens Recruitment, Australia's leading specialist pharmacy recruitment agency. If you enjoyed this episode and know anyone else who you think would benefit from it, we would be grateful if you could share it with them. Together, we help even more pharmacists develop a career and life they love. If you have any questions or suggestions about future podcast episodes, please reach out to us via email info@ravensrecruitment.com.au.